So we had individuals who haven't had erection like for 5 to 7 years sometimes, right? So let's talk about how this thing works, right?
Yeah, I'm really curious.
So we have this device. So it sends sound waves, and those sound waves create small trauma inside the penis muscle. So this is how it sounds like.
Basically, tell me like the top 5 things that are the worst for your testosterone.
Well, naturally, regular sex is much more better than just masturbating, because when we masturbate, we are sort of programming our brain to get used to a rhythm of masturbation, which is not the same as actual sex.
What is your medical opinion on Cialis and Viagra?
If the testosterone levels are low, men do tend to be more moody. They do tend to be emotional. Lack of motivation is a problem. This we use for females who have trouble with orgasm, or they feel like the sex is not as fun as it used to be. In summary, it sort of helps tighten that vaginal area. So the way it works is, once we turn on the laser, we insert this in the vagina, and then the laser travels from here, and then we rotate it all around the vagina.
Today we are checking out Rare V and Healer here with David and Dr. Raj.
So today we will be talking about a lot of subjects that are important to men's health. We're going to talk about penises, talking about vaginas. We're going to talk about mental health, sleep, leveling up as a man in the modern world. So one of the pet peeves of mine is sometimes I like to talk to my friends about health, and they always say, David, you're not a doctor. Well, you know who is? This gentleman. Hey guys. Number 1, mental health, men's health, erectile dysfunction doctor at the Vegas.
Hi guys, I'm Dr. Raj Singh. I'm a board-certified physician in internal medicine and nephrology, which deals with a lot of kidney issues. I've been practicing for about 13 some years. I travel nationally to speak at multiple conferences, especially on sexual health, male hormones, and we had a great success taking care of clients from all different ages and diversities. So let's get started with the questions. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so you've actually hired us for photography.
Correct.
And we thought you were such an interesting character. We thought maybe it'd be kind of nice to interview you, learn about your services, but more importantly, him and I have a lot of questions. We have a lot of clients in our program and people that we service who have questions about diet, sleep, gym, erectile dysfunction, testosterone. So we thought it'd be exciting and fun to ask an actual doctor who has expertise in these subjects. So we're gonna do a tour of his facility, and so just go. All right, so you wanted to show us some of the equipment you have, and just give us a tour.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Come with me. So as we get older, and especially we're dealing with so much stress, I'm seeing a lot of men with sexual issues, decreased sexual drive, the erections are less and few in between, and when they do get erection, it's not very good. So one of the treatments we offer, in addition to, of course, hormone optimization, is something called as shockwave therapy. Have you ever heard of something like shockwave therapy?
Shockwave? No.
No. Okay. So I know it sounds scary, but we're not actually shocking the penis, but it's more like sound waves. It's much easier if I show how it works on this little
all right,
penis model we have, right?
Great.
So, so as we get older, naturally our body's less interested in maintaining the health of the penis, right? Because it says, hey, it's not important. You're getting older. So a lot of blood flow and nutrients are directed away from the penis and into essential organs like the heart, the liver, and the kidneys.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we start having less erections. And as our testosterone levels and other hormones are
What
declining.
what age would you say?
So I've seen like even individuals as young as 25.
Oh wow.
Because we live such a stressful life these days.
Yeah.
That is hard. Now, if your hormones are out of balance, you're not having enough erections at night. Typical male will have about 15 to 20 erections in their sleep.
15 to 20.
15 to 20. Now, they're not strong enough to wake you up, but they're erections. That's the body's way of maintaining blood flow to the penis and keeping it healthy.
Okay.
So now as we get older, that's happening less. So naturally, penis becomes smaller and much weaker because it is a muscle.
So if you're not getting boners, your dick will get smaller?
Especially in your sleep, because
Okay.
that's nature's way of keeping it healthy, right? So if you don't go to the gym, you will lose muscle mass, right?
Correct.
So the nature knows this, so it will have some of these erections at nighttime while we're sleeping in order to keep the penis healthy. So once your testosterone is low or we're overstressed, we're not thinking about having sex. So naturally, number of erections go down.
Yeah.
Right. So, and naturally, if I'm overstressed, I'm not thinking about finding a date or having sex. So naturally, you're engaging in less sexual intercourse. So naturally, that also sends a negative feedback to your brain that that is not an important activity.
So that's wow. I didn't know that if you didn't get erections that it would have that effect.
Of course.
So if your focus is mostly on things that are stressing you out and you're not thinking about sex, you're going to have less erections.
Correct.
Which is going to make your dick less
Yeah.
used.
Yeah,
Wow.
because it's a muscle, so it needs, every time we have erection, our body is sending a lot of blood flow to the penis, and we are engaging in a sexual
So
activity,
having
which is
active,
an
healthy,
exertion. Yes,
having an active, healthy dating life.
absolutely, very, very important.
Okay.
If that's important to you, yes, then it's very, very important, right? And like I said, reducing stress. Stress is the number one thing, right? When we're overstressed, we're not having enough sex, or we're not thinking about enough. We're always tired, all of those things, right? So let's talk about how this thing works, right?
Yeah, I'm really curious.
So we have this device. So it sends sound waves, and those sound waves create small trauma inside the penis muscle. So you can't see it with naked eye, but you can see it under a microscope. So when you do this, now the body says, what's going on there? And it will recruit all the mediators required to repair the penis. So that may form new blood vessels, new nerves. So more blood flow is being sent to the penis, and also it becomes more sensitive over time, right? So because if I'm not having fun while having sex.
So when you do this,
right.
does the patient have to be erect?
No.
They can just be hanging.
They don't. Okay. They are typically not erect, right? So then we'll generally apply.
That might be kind of awkward.
That's okay.
Be like, sir,
hey, but that's not it. That's a good sign, right?
Please
so that
get
means
a boner.
that the equipment is working, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, but a lot of our clients haven't had erection in a while. The penis tends to look weaker and smaller, so we repair it over time. So one is, of course, we inject it with something called platelet-rich plasma, which we'll talk about it. But this, since we're on the sound wave, so this is how it sounds like. Right now, it is not painful. It doesn't hurt, right? You can feel it on your hand, right? What we do is we go over the shaft of the penis like this, all around, and then we also go over the tip to. Now these sound waves are creating this micro trauma, and then people notice that their erections are much more stronger now, and they can last much longer, and they have a lot more confidence to perform sex. Now we do about 6 sessions of this, and then we have men who do this also as a way of preventing ED. So it's not just for men with ED. It's also if you don't want to have it on the road, you can actually start early.
So what's the longest that a patient says that they haven't been able to get an erection?
So we had individuals who haven't had erection like for 5 to 7 years sometimes, right?
No matter what they try?
No matter what they try.
Wow, dude, that's so scary.
Right? And a lot of time the problem is it becomes psychological too. So if you haven't had an erection, next time you want to have sex, you're worried about, hey, last time it didn't work, I don't want to get embarrassed again. So you're worried about that, and that worry also makes it harder to have erection.
Yeah.
A lot of men who come to our office feel like no matter what, they cannot have erection.
Having an erection is like a big mental game sometimes.
So sometimes we have to show it to them with a small injection in the penis that actually they can have erection. So we inject a small medication, causes penis erection. We say, hey, look, your penis works fine. It's all in your head. So sometimes people need that level of convincing, because men associate health of the penis with, it's a huge, confidence booster for us, right? We feel less of a man if it's harder to have erection. So we do this. Then another treatment is called platelet-rich plasma. So we draw blood, we spin it, and we have stem cells, growth factors that we inject directly into the penile muscle. And that also will improve the health of the penis. And then, of course, we'll use medications like testosterone boosters. We'll do
there were some other
Viagra, things like that.
All right, so here you have a lot of equipment.
Yes.
And tell us about what each of these machines do.
Sure. So the very first one you're looking at, it's a laser machine. It's called a FamiLift. That's the name of the brand. And this we use for females who have trouble with orgasm, or they feel like the sex is not as fun as it used to be. And it's basically a way of rejuvenating the vagina, right? Okay. Some women also have issues with urinary incontinence, where they know they leak a little bit of urine, so this can also help tight. So it basically in summary, it sort of helps tighten that vaginal area. So sex is more fun, it's more pleasurable, and who doesn't want that, right?
Yeah.
So the way it works is once we turn on the laser, so naturally we insert this in the vagina, and then the laser travels from here, and then we rotate it all around the vagina, and we're creating small areas of thermal injury, and that is basically the heat is causing the contraction of the vagina, but also the heat is recruiting a lot of blood vessels, a lot of nutrients, and over time, you will see, the woman will find that sex is much more fun now. And we typically do about 3 to 4 sessions of this.
There's a big theme of like stressing out the body so it activates healing.
Right. So because as we, so let's say if I'm a 50-year-old female versus a 30-year-old female, or to my body, sex is much more important when I'm in a reproductive, right? Because to body, what's the point of having sex if you're gonna have kids, right? Yeah. So naturally, body will take blood flow and nutrients away from the vagina and use it somewhere else. So it's now with this, we're telling the body, hey, no, this is still important. You got to repair this area. So it's sort of a way of giving injury or causing injury, but in a controlled fashion.
Yeah. Wow.
So now that is causing a lot of the aesthetics and a lot of health things treatments we do is a controlled injury basically. And now we're forcing the body to heal that area.
It's kind of like, is this similar to autophagy where the cells sense a little stress and it's encouraged to do some new stuff?
I mean, yeah, so that's the whole idea, right? So you want to tell the body where we need it to heal, right? And during the repair process, now whenever we get injured, body will form new blood vessels, we form new nerves, right? So that increases blood flow to the vagina, that also increases nerves to the vagina, so you have much more sensation. And sometimes we'll also inject something called platelet-rich plasma, so we inject it around the clitoris and in the vagina, so that also helps enlarge the clitoris. So with sex is a lot about friction, so it helps with the orgasms as well.
And these other machines?
So this is a light panel. So this we use to help with the reversing of the aging process. So basically it's a 15-minute session. So our client puts their head there, and then it's a low level laser. So it's low enough it won't hurt, but it's powerful enough that it will again recruit a lot more blood flow to the area. So if I'm using my face, it'll help with that. If I'm a guy and I'm worried about losing hair, I use it on my scalp about once a month, and it preserves or maintains or improves the hair growth. So that's what we use this for. And this has different wavelengths. So one of them is a blue wavelength, so we use it for individuals with acne. So blue light kills bacteria, and a lot of acne are caused by bacteria.
Wow.
So that's a blue light panel. I can turn it on, but we'll have to plug it in if we need to.
It's okay.
So another laser, so this is something we use for photofacials. So it's basically a light so over time we can have pigmentation, sun damage, skin is becoming much more loose. So this helps tighten that area. This helps remove that pigment, so the skin is much more firmer, so sort of like baby skin, right? So we use this for that. This is just a cryo chiller, so it cools the air. So when we are doing a procedure, it numbs the area just with cold air. Yeah. So it minimizes pain and discomfort. So that's how this thing works. This is just another skin tightening machine we have called Endymed. So it's a radio frequency. Radio frequency is like sound waves. So these sound waves like travel into the skin, cause heat, and cause the skin to tighten up. So this is great for belly, the wrinkles, fine lines, all of those treatments. The actual needles, I can show you. So there are tiny needles on this head. I don't know if you can see it or not, but they're very small needles, and those needles actually go inside the skin and actually heat the skin, and that causes the skin to contract.
Wow.
So yeah, so they go about a couple of millimeters deep into the skin. It's called radio frequency microneedling. Very, very effective treatment for.
Do you guys do any like blemish removal or like wart removal or anything?
Right. So we have a different equipment for that, but we can cut through some of the blemishes. We remove skin tags and molds and all of those things.
Yeah. I actually had a big mole on my neck when I was like a teenager.
Okay.
They removed it. I still have the scar.
Okay.
And everyone thinks I have a hickey now. It's kind of annoying.
Hey, that's okay.
Because girls are like, I'm not talking to you. You have a hickey. I'm like, oh, when I was 10.
So this is a device. Think of like liposuction, but with laser.
Yeah.
So we have these electrodes. So we put them on the areas where we want fat reduction to happen. So a lot of men have like, love handles, right? Or we have thighs, maybe loose skin or a lot of fat. So we put this on there and we turn on the machine. It's about 25-minute treatment. So the laser will actually heat the fat cells to a certain degree, which will cause them to just burst apart. And so you lose about 25 to 30% of fat with these
Have
treatments.
you yourself used any of your own treatments?
I have, yes, I have. There's a reason I look this good.
Yeah, you look great. Looking good.
Some of these treatments, yes.
Some of it. He's like,
I don't
only
have a
the dick
vagina,
shocking.
so I have no use for that equipment. But I certainly use a lot of treatments.
Great, cool.
Because it's prevention is much better, right?
Yeah.
When I get older, if I start, it will not be as effective, and I'll have to spend a lot more money. So, but if I can do a couple of treatments once in a while, it kind of keeps me looking better and keeps my sex life good. And you can stand probably here, so that it's a nice background and all, Okay, so this is nitrous oxide. So a lot of our clients have a lot of anxiety about getting some of these procedures done. So it's simply nitric oxide. So you inhale this a little bit, or we also call it laughing gas.
Yeah.
And this helps calm the anxiety down, and they have less pain, and they're happy while they're getting the treatment. That's the whole idea, right? So we utilize this for individuals, especially if they have a lot of pain sensitivity or they're very anxious about getting something done. This helps you calm it down, and then there's no after effects in 5-7 minutes. It's gone, and then you can drive and go back to your routine.
Great.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So this is something we use for body tightening or body contouring. So this has vacuum. So if you can put your hand, it tends to create a vacuum. So we apply it on the basically the love handles, the body area, and it pulls the skin in. And there is also heat waves, the sound waves that travel, heat up the skin, and it's also pulling it. So it's basically helps. We do the love handles or the belly helps with the body contouring basically. So, and this rotating handle sort of grabs the skin of the area which we want to, helps reduce fat and basically tightens it. So
Very
a lot
cool.
of new treatments available, and so cool.
Very, very cool. Yeah, so let's go into a room we
Yeah.
can jump into
You
a
can
clean photo.
And those are all our models. So we actually did the photo shoot here.
That's great.
So we own these stock images.
Yeah, so question about testosterone. I've noticed students that generally have higher testosterone tend to chase their goals more. When it comes to dating, they're more likely to go out there and, approach and go out, lift weights. So I think there's a key theme in terms of boosting testosterone and maintaining a healthy level. So what are your suggestions and recommendations on natural ways to boost your testosterone?
Mike, what you said is absolutely right. So if the testosterone levels are low, men do tend to be more moody. They do tend to be emotional. Lack of motivation is a problem. And when you're not feeling good, you're not going to go out and work out. So, and especially, like I said, we live in such a stressful environment. I've seen such low testosterone level in very younger individuals. The goal is to keep the testosterone good, but there is also a negative side to it if you overdo on the testosterone, right? As long as you are in good range and you're doing things properly, it's fine. But if you overdo on the testosterone, your body will respond less to it, and you'll also have the negative effects of testosterone. So hair loss, the testes kind of become smaller, the sperm count pretty much goes to zero, so it's hard to have kids if you are on testosterone. So and then increased risk of certain cancers like prostate and breast. So have to be careful. Good level is good. Too much level is a problem. And I see a lot of clinicians don't doing testosterone the right way. But it is an addictive drug. It makes you feel really good. But nothing wrong with that as long as the levels are where they need to be.
Yes.
So how would we boost the levels? I would say sleep well. When we sleep, we increase more growth hormone, which helps. And naturally, a good nutrition. Don't smoke. Marijuana or cannabis, it's becoming much more prevalent. So naturally, when we smoke a lot of cannabis, it does suppress our testosterone levels.
So David said by just changing his habits, you were able to double your testosterone?
So I tested low for testosterone, and I've since done a few things. I've almost completely stopped eating like bread. I try to have almost no alcohol, a lot of red meat, leafy green vegetables, magnesium, zinc.
Yeah.
And the sleep for me is the biggest. it's the biggest challenge because I have a very active mind, and 5 hours, 6.5 hours is kind of anything above that is hard for me to achieve.
Sure.
And I've since, gotten to a good rhythm. And lifting weights is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think lifting weight is probably helping you de-stress, which is making it easy for you to sleep. But yeah, I mean, you can take some ashwagandha that helps boost testosterone. Then zinc, boron is another good one.
more on. I just got
So, and then of course, being aware that, hey, my testosterone level is low. So it's good to have it checked because then you can take some measures to kind of get it better, right? And reducing the stress, I think, is extremely important. I generally see a lot of sleep issues these days. People have a very hard time sleeping. We are overstimulated and our cortisol may be too high. And if you're overstressed, overworking, naturally your body can only make so much of everything. So it will cut back on testosterone production if you have an overly stressed life. Let's put it that way.
So there's two ways to ask, how do you naturally boost your testosterone? One way is what is the right thing to do? Here's my next question. If my goal was to have the lowest testosterone possible, like if I wanted to hurt myself, basically tell me like the top 5 things that are the worst for your testosterone. Like if my goal was to make it as low as I could.
Sure. So, I mean, stress, I'm again saying the same thing. So stress, I think, is the biggest one.
Stress?
Because our testosterone in men is made by adrenal glands and our testes. So adrenal glands also make cortisol. So when we are dealing with a lot of stress, we produce a lot more cortisol. Naturally, if I'm always worried, I'm overstressed, I'm not thinking about sex. So testosterone production becomes less important. So reducing your stress, I think, is the number one in my book. Second, of course, don't smoke.
Smoke what?
Cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
Right?
Okay.
So cigarette smoke is associated with suppression of testosterone. And then if you are doing cannabis again, that will suppress testosterone quite significantly, especially if you do it every single day. Now, now occasional use once in a while is fine. But, and then again, like, overly processed diets, especially if you do a lot of meat, and it's not a good quality meat because a lot of farm animals are injected with estrogen as a way of fattening them up. So men, when we get estrogen, it's very powerful hormone, and men don't like that feeling. It's kind of like a woman around her menstrual cycle, right? We become moody, we become irritable, we're not so much fun to be around. We may have a tear down our eyes, and there's all of those things. And testosterone typically makes us more confident. It does make us less distant also. So women will complain that, you're not listening to me or you're not responding as emotionally as you should, but that is testosterone's doing.
So if I want my testosterone to be bad, I should smoke cigarettes, smoke weed every day, don't get a good sleep. And what are some like foods or dietary habits that could contribute to like low testosterone?
So again, I would say, like, if you do a lot of soy, which is, although it's a phytoestrogen, but it is a estrogen, right? So, and again, it's like avoiding processed foods probably is important, right? And a lot of meat, avoid all of this. Dairy is associated
Eating a
with
lot of
some
meat?
Yeah. Meat, because again, it'll give you a good dose of hormones, synthetic hormones.
Because like I thought having meat was like you have creatine and protein, and that's good.
Well, again, remember, so protein is good, but you can get the same quality of protein from vegetable sources too, right? So that is just a myth that, hey, eating meat is better for muscle building. It's not.
Okay.
Right? It just, we create more acid, and it's much more unhealthy for us versus actually eating a vegetable protein. Could be lentils, could be garbanzo beans, could be anything. So it's okay to eat meat, but if that's your main preferred source of protein intake, it's probably not a good thing.
Is there a label you want to look at? For example, non-GMO, no hormone meat.
So yeah, I mean, again, if organic meat is probably the better way to do it, right? But if a lot of the thing is, who's monitoring these facilities, right? A lot of time it'll say, but we'll pledge never to use hormones in our animals. I mean, it's just a pledge. If you use hormones, is something going to happen to you? Nothing, right? So I've seen, we look at a lot of clinical data, and plenty of meat which said there's no hormones is laced with a lot of synthetic hormones. So same thing with milk also. And then masturbate less.
Masturbate less.
Because every time we ejaculate, it is associated with suppression of testosterone for about 5 to 7 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there a difference between masturbating and regular sex?
Well, naturally, regular sex is much more better than just masturbating, because when we masturbate, we are sort of programming our brain to get used to a rhythm of masturbation, which is not the same as actual sex.
Right.
The other thing is a lot of people masturbate and watch porn at the same time. So now you are training your brain to get excited by watching other people having sex versus you getting engaged in sexual activity by itself. Plus, when we also watch porn or masturbate, we have a tendency to get overstimulated, and over time we feel like, the same clip may not be as sexually exciting as the first one was. So we have a tendency to flip. So naturally, you don't have the option of switching your partner in real life that quickly as you have. So yes, the masturbation or frequent masturbation is associated with the suppression of testosterone. It's not a good thing. So sex is better.
Good.
It's good physical exercise too.
Yes.
Yes.
What would you say are the main factors that can cause ED or reduction in male performance?
I think depends on who you are, right? Like I said, stress will cause ED over time because our body can only make so much of everything. And the same glands are making testosterone versus cortisol and DHEA. So naturally, if you're consistently utilizing a lot of cortisol, you are not thinking about sex. If I'm the zebra that is constantly being chased by a tiger, I'm overstressed, I'm not thinking about having sex. I'm thinking about survival. So when we get into survival mode, we're not thinking about sex. And when we are in survival mode, we tend to sleep poorly too because our mind is constantly active. Our body is tired from all the running, from all the exertion, but our mind is in a million places.
Right.
Because we're overstressed. And then we finally go back to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we're up at 5 or 6 o'clock again. And when we wake up in the morning, everything is achy again because we didn't get a good restful sleep. Naturally, that's a bad thing to do.
How do people deal with stress? I know me personally, I don't get a lot of stress because my brain tends to tune things out. It's almost like some people, it feels like, at least for me, I'm genetically tuned to have low stress because I'm like a worry-free kind of guy.
Sure.
But if you're just naturally stressful, like what are things that you can do to reduce it? I know ashwagandha is good.
So I believe in fixing the problem. What is causing the stress? Is it a bad job? Well, change the job, right? Is it a bad partner? Well, change the partner. Is it your marriage? Get divorced, right? So you got to fix the reason behind the stress. I think it's the most important, right? All the other things, ashwagandha and rhodiola and all the anti-stress. Yeah, I mean those are just band-aids, right? You got to fix the core problem.
Yeah.
Right. What is stressing you out? Fix the stress. Naturally, low testosterone makes it difficult to deal with stress. Low testosterone makes it easy for us to have addictions, right? So you will be consuming more alcohol, smoking more cigarettes because you're not feeling good, and we need those stimulants to make us feel better. So that's why it's so hard to quit anything when your testosterone levels are super low.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, since a lot of our work is in the arena of dating, having a quality girlfriend I feel like that could link low testosterone or good testosterone, your stress levels. I feel like, it's very important to make sure that your partner is, aligned with your goals and supportive. And it's so huge to like a male's career and personal development, fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it'll be probably very hard for somebody with very low testosterone to actually get a girlfriend to begin with, because again, we need motivation and we need confidence, and testosterone does that for us. So I think having that optimizing, it's I think more important. So men with low testosterone tend to be more loners. They tend to not focus so much on exercise or looking good or feeling good. Depression is much more common. Masturbation is much more common. So all of those factors make it difficult to have a good quality of dating life.
Yeah.
So if you are one of that person, you feel like, hey, I don't have the confidence, or I have a hard time talking to girls, maybe you just need to get your levels checked, and maybe that's all you need.
I've had students say to me, that after they've gotten their testosterone checked and fixed, they're a completely different person, like 180. And as a dating coach, I think it's easy to teach the mechanics. Okay, say this, say that. But teaching drive is hard. How do you teach that when you're low energy? You don't even want to go out and make anything happen.
Yeah, I mean, either you have the drive or you don't have the drive.
Right.
If you have the drive, you do the right things. Yeah,
it's like these bad habits make you like lazier and less driven, which makes you less likely to try to fix problems. So you just stay there.
Yeah,
it's like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer kind of thing.
And like I can tell you, I mean, not anymore, but I used to, drink excessively and used to smoke. I had all those bad habits of overstressed out doctor. But last couple of years, I've totally transformed my life, and I think getting my testosterone optimized was a big part of that. So now I work out, 5 to 6 days a week, and I was not doing any of those things before. But now I'm much more aware of where the problems are, and I'm willing to take the action. So that started with basically, accepting that, okay, maybe there is something is wrong. And men tend to have this habit of brushing things aside, say, everything is fine. And it's a simple blood test and may tell you something that can be fixed easily.
So the original question was, what are things that can contribute to ED or erectile dysfunction?
Yeah.
Stress? What, like a quick bullet point thing?
So I think like we talk about stress, we talk about lack of sleep and low testosterone, right? Because low testosterone you're not having those nighttime erections that you need. Naturally, there are other, like, could have a kidney problem, for example.
Okay.
You could have a liver issue. So there are, like, problems that could cause ED. Now, a lot of ED tends to be psychological. Alcohol, for example, if I have too much alcohol, I want to have sex, I will have a hard time having erection. If I'm doing the same behavior next time, I'm thinking about it, hey, that didn't happen last time.
Yeah.
So naturally you are reinforcing the same behavior and you're losing your confidence, and men tend to start avoiding sex because then say, well, I don't want to get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And that will lead to further decline in the health of the penis.
Like the term, like approach or performance anxiety.
Yeah, big time.
A lot of guys, if they have struggle with that,
Exactly.
they're so paranoid of it that their fear of the ED is actually the cause of the ED.
So that's, I think, extreme. So a lot of it is psychological, a lot of it is stress, social media, all of those things contribute to, and a lot of it is nutritional. Although, I mean, we feel like the diet is a big part of it. We're not eating as healthy as we should.
Yeah.
And also in the older days, we used to say, you are what you eat, but we know that's not true. You are what you absorb. So you may be eating all the right things, but your body's not absorbing those key nutrients you need to make the testosterone or make the cortisol or build muscle. So it's easy blood work to kind of check for some of those nutritional problems. But I can tell you, we see ED from so many different reasons, and can be autoimmune problems. But a big part of that is, alcohol, smoking, cannabis, and a lot of it is just performance anxiety.
Yeah.
And a lot of time we have to give an injection in the penis or show them, hey, everything is fine, and that really helps them to say, hey, everything is so good, it's all in my head.
So I have an embarrassing story. I had some erection problems a couple times, and it led me, fortunately, to going to the gym. But before that, I had never gone to the gym consistently almost in my entire life. I'm 36 years old, and I don't think I've ever gone to the gym more than twice in a month for my whole life. And I had some ED, and it was with more than one girl. It was with a bunch of girls, and it was really traumatizing. And it led me to fix this issue. And my first suggestion that was given to me was Cialis. Okay. And I tried it, and I got a lot of anxiety because it made me feel kind of weird.
Sure.
And so that's when made me kind of want to do the right way, the natural way, which is like the gym and the diet and stuff. But my question to you is, I'm not a big fan of things like Viagra and Cialis, but a lot of my friends are. A lot of my friends are totally like, oh, dude, it's totally fine.
Sure.
What is your medical opinion on Cialis first and Viagra? Okay. And this question is more for guys who are in their late 20s and like 20s to 40s. Sure. Not obviously if you're like 95 years old or something, it's fine. But
sure.
Some guy who's like in his 30s, Cialis, good, bad?
So
what are the pros? What are the cons?
So here again, I think main difference between Viagra and Cialis is basically they're similar chemical, but Cialis tends to have much longer effect. So more than 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And Viagra tends to be about 4 to 8 hours, right? So Cialis is good for more of a long term if you're looking for a much longer effect, right? Mm-hmm. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking Cialis or Viagra once in a while to enhance the sexual activity. Mm-hmm. But if you have to rely on these medications all the time for this, then that's a sign of a deeper problem. Yeah. Because all these medications do is they increase the blood flow to the penis, which your body should be able to do naturally on itself. So that is masking a problem. As somebody who's 20 should not be needing, or 25 should not be needing Viagra or Cialis to have a great sex. So this is more, we use a lot of these medications, but we use more of a everyday dosing, much lower dosing for men because it increases blood flow to the penis. But higher dose just for this, I think in my opinion is not right. Occasional use, yeah, sure, it's fine. But again, if you're requiring every time to use it, they sign up deeper problems.
Do you think, like from a health standpoint though, every medication has their side effects.
Sure.
Could you ever make an argument that Cialis or Viagra is actually like unhealthy?
we could make an argument somebody who has cardiac problems and he's also taking some other medications, because there are some serious interactions, because these medications, they do promote blood flow to the penis, but they also have a tendency to drop your blood pressure.
Okay.
So if somebody has heart problems they're already taking some blood pressure medication, especially nitrates, or they have blockages, it can cause a sudden drop in blood pressure, can cause cardiac arrest. And I worked in a hospital, and I can tell you, we have seen people who were in the hotel engaging in sexual activity and were brought to the emergency room because they have cardiac problems, but they took way too much Viagra or Cialis, and then had a cardiac arrest and then had to be brought to the hospital. So these things do happen, but I don't suspect anything in 25 to 30-year-old. But again, I'm saying is, if you're relying on that all the time, maybe you have confidence issues, maybe your penis is not as healthy as it should be, maybe you're overdoing on drugs or alcohol or smoking, and I would say you shouldn't need it if you're 25 and otherwise healthy.
Yeah, so I've used Viagra. I haven't tried Cialis, but I try to use it sparingly. But like you said, I think if you use it all the time, your body acclimates, and it's just not good. But I think for me, sometimes you're in a difficult situation where you've had a little bit of alcohol. I try to drink very little. I might drink once every 6 months. But you're in a situation, there's some alcohol. I think I do it. I take Viagra maybe once every 3 months or 6 months, and I think.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking it that infrequently. And like I said, even if you just take it once a week, it's okay. Yeah. All I'm saying is that if you have to take it every single time you have to have sex, and you're a young guy, then maybe you're masking some of the problems with Viagra. But otherwise, if you take it once or twice a week, it's not going to cause any negative effects to your health.
And I agree, a lot of it is mental, because if it's with a girl that I already know and I'm comfortable, like I never need it. But it's like with a new girl, and it's like first time, and your room is kind of messy. You didn't really plan for it. You're in a new country. Then it definitely it helps kind of take the edge off of the uncertainty.
Absolutely, and like I said, not having a good erection is big stigma for men, right? And it takes a huge mental toll on. I mean, I can tell you there were 1 or 2 instances where I was trying to have sexual and I couldn't have like an erection, and it's really a huge stressor and a bummer. Yeah. So it happens to the best of us. And again, I had too much alcohol in my system, but the main thing is, for all men experience ED once or twice in their life, maybe even more frequently. So if one of your listeners has that problem, it's okay. It has happened to all of us. Yeah. So main thing is, if it's happening a lot more frequently, we need to do something about this. Right. But otherwise, things happen.
It's funny. It's like when you have the confidence, it's positive synergy, and then it's also negative synergy, right? It's like when you got it and you have the confidence, you're more likely to do things that the girls are more attracted to, right? So then it's like better and better, and then if you can't get it up, you're more likely to be conservative. Sure. You don't want to try things. Yeah. So I think it's definitely important to.
And then attraction to your partner is extremely important. And I can tell you, because we have a very busy sexual health clinic, I have clients that come in, and we had this. One wife brought her husband and says, you got to fix this guy. I mean, he's having no erections, he has no sex drive. And she was the one who is doing all the talking, and the guy is just sitting there listening. So now I said, well, can you leave for a couple of minutes so I can talk to him man to man? So as soon as she left, I said, okay, tell me what the problem is. He said, well, my sex drive is great, it's just not good with her. Right? So
you can't fix that.
I can't fix that. He said my sex drive is great with my girlfriend. It's just with my wife I cannot. So that's not something I can fix, right? So attraction. So I told him, you need a marriage counselor. Why are you here, right? Yeah. Or a divorce attorney, right? Yeah. So attractiveness, I think, to the partner is important. So if that's there, I think erection is less of a problem.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. We find guys attractive partners. So
and I think you guys you're doing a great work. Thanks. We all need your help.
Hair. So another thing that's really important to men who are in their 30s is their hair. A lot of us start to have a thinning hairline or a receding hairline. What do we do? Minoxidil is the first thing that comes to mind, but is there anything else?
Sure.
Is there shampoos, or is there certain things that could contribute to hair loss, certain chemicals to avoid, things like that?
Yeah, so hair loss is common in men, and a lot of it is genetic. So if you have hair loss, you may notice that your father may have hair loss. So it does run in. There is big part of it is genetics, but that doesn't mean that we can't prevent it. The other common reason I see is overdoing on testosterone. But when we inject a lot of testosterone, about 4 to 6% of it gets converted to something called as DHT or dihydrotestosterone, and dihydrotestosterone causes the hair follicles to stop growing. So when the hair are not growing, they tend to fall.
And TRT would qualify as too much like
Right. So again, I mean, TRT is testosterone replacement therapy. So it depends on where you're getting your levels and how frequently are you injecting, what level are you trying to achieve. So that's why you will notice a lot of bodybuilders, or they don't tend to have a lot of hair on the scalp. A big part of that is that when you do a lot of TRT or high dose of it, and you're not taking DHT blockers, it will cause your hair to stop growing. And when the hair stops growing, the strand becomes weaker and then it falls off. Now you brought up, minoxidil. Now minoxidil is effective when we are young, but after the age of about 40, we don't have that much blood supply to our scalp, so we don't absorb the medication. So what we use is typically a compounded medication, which has minoxidil, which has something called a finasteride, which is a DHT blocker, and a couple of vitamins and nutrients. So you basically, it's drops that you apply to your scalp every day or 2 times a day, and that protects your hair from testosterone, that protects your hair from environmental damage. Then we talked about the red light panel a little bit, so we use that also. Or you can also use a shampoo that contains saw palmetto. Saw palmetto is a natural DHT blocker. So if you apply it to your hair and then leave it for 2-3 minutes and then rinse off, that will also protect your hair from hair loss.
Do you guys sell that here?
We do. So we do that, and then of course we do platelet-rich plasma, where again we're drawing your blood, we're spinning it, we're injecting it in the scalp, and that will also increase your hair growth basically. The whole idea is all of these medication and treatments we do is to keep the hair growing. Hair start falling when they stop growing because they become weaker.
Is there any truth to the claim that using hair gel too often is bad, or that hairspray, or there are some who argue that you should even not wash your hair sometimes, like you should just only shampoo like twice a week?
Well, here's the thing: if your hair are already weak and then you are shampooing it and you're rinsing, then you're using a towel and then you're cleaning it very aggressively, you are causing some trauma or damage to the hair shaft, right? So that definitely is a problem. Now, with coming to the hair gel, if your hair are not very long, a hair gel is not an issue. Now, if your hair are long and you turn a hair gel, that adds increased weight to the hair, and that pulls on the hair roots, and that definitely can cause it, right? Now, drying of your hair, of course, it will cause weakening of the hair that you already have, but it won't cause more hair loss. But it will make the hair weaker because it's taking the moisture out of the hair. So that will make the hair much more thinner and much more easy to break. We're losing hair. We lose about 100 to 200 hair follicles every single day. We don't notice it because it's being replaced by other hair. But now with too many gels, too many chemical products, too many hair dyes, you are accelerating the process of hair loss basically. And if your nutrition is poor, that's a problem.
My mom used to tell me I shouldn't wear a hat because I'm gonna go bald. Is she wrong?
Well, if the hat is very tight and it's creating a lot of pressure on that area, then yes, you will lose some hair on that, right?
I got a convertible. Sometimes I have the top down.
That's not a problem.
Your
Your hair are not gonna fly off.
I'm not like going bald as I go. I'll do that sometimes. Like I'll drive from here to Bakersfield, and I'm just like.
Now there is a good studies that show that if you do sauna or steam room, that actually will protect against hair loss. Because
interesting.
Because when we do sauna, we are in a very heated environment, and that heat increases blood flow to our skin, and that increases nutrients to the skin, to the hair basically. So sauna is good for hair.
Great.
Maintaining hair.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been going to the steam rooms quite a bit.
Good.
Our gym has it, so we try to go at least a couple times a week.
For guys who have never been to a clinic such as this one and they want to ease their way into it, what are some popular or common treatments that they could try and they see the results and they can keep coming back for more and discover more into like different types of therapies? What do you recommend for somebody who's first time?
Right. So I think for somebody who's first time, I would recommend getting a basic blood work done, because the treatments can only be recommended to when we know where the symptoms are or what the problem is. So I would recommend everyone to at least get a blood work done once a year. And it's basically we're checking for your blood counts, make sure you're not anemic. We're checking your liver and kidney function, testosterone, thyroid, cholesterol, and diabetes test. And that's it. And it's a simple blood test. We get the results back in about 2-3 days. And and I recommend that everyone should do that at least once a year.
Okay.
How much is that?
So if you have insurance, it should be covered. If you don't have insurance, typically less than $100.
Less
And it's
than 800 or 8?
100.
Oh, okay.
Less than $100.
Great.
We do the blood work right here in our clinic. And if you're really afraid of, getting your blood drawn, we can also give you a saliva test where you can just spit in the tube, and then we can check your blood, check a lot of your testosterone, a lot of your hormones that way also.
You can test testosterone from saliva?
Yes.
Wow.
That was the
Interesting.
It's actually-
I might be willing to do it.
Yeah,
today.
it's actually much more accurate than blood work because our blood has a lot of proteins that can bind to testosterone. So blood test includes total and free testosterone,
I'll do it.
but our saliva has no binding protein. So when we collect it, it's all free. It's the active form of testosterone, and it's much more accurate.
And the saliva also will do the kidneys and all.
Yeah, so we can certainly add those, and saliva we check for cortisol and a lot of other factors too. But typically saliva is done for checking cortisol and some of the hormone
Well,
levels.
if I did the saliva, what can you check?
So it depends on what all tests we are. We can test for certain genetics. We can see your cortisol level for 24 hours. So we generally will give 4 tubes. So you collect your saliva in the morning, then the afternoon, then at noon, and that helps me see how your body's handling stress. Right. So based on
So
that
if
report,
I
I
bought the
can.
saliva thing, I
Right.
get a bunch of tubes, and I gotta wait.
Correct,
And then
correct.
fill them up, and I just give them back to you.
So we give you the kit. It has 4 tubes. So you collect 1 sample first thing in the morning. Then after a couple of hours, you put everything in the freezer, and it has a shipping label. You just drop it at FedEx, and we get the report back in a couple of days, and that's it.
Cool.
It's very accurate, and we should generally recommend it. Yeah, especially if you have fear of blood draws. But not everything can be tested through saliva. Some tests we do need to do blood work, like for the liver or kidney or cholesterol. I can't check your cholesterol with saliva.
What about aesthetical appearances for men? What are some things you recommend for starters?
So depends on age. Typically when we get older as men, we tend to start losing hair on the scalp, but we have increased hair growth in our nose and our ears and our back. So a
Interesting.
typical treatment men do is like, laser hair removal for the ears or like, for the back, right? So also if you overdo on testosterone injections or testosterone therapy, you will also notice that you have a lot more hair coming out from the ears and on the back, and you're losing hair on the scalp. So that's it. And then men, facials for men, we do executive facials. So men that's a good starting treatment for men. Who doesn't like to have a good facial? Right?
Yeah.
And then naturally, of course, Botox, and we do some fillers for the cheeks, or we can do thread lifts. Over age, with gravity, our skin is sagging and it's coming down. So naturally, we can put some threads, which are suture materials, and they can kind of provide some support and lift these areas up.
I notice I have like this really prominent line. Maybe it's because I laugh so much. I don't know. These would be like fillers, right?
Right, so not necessarily fillers. So these lines are typically a result of because you're losing a lot of fat from this area. So Asians tend to have a large fat in this.
Interesting.
And as you get older, it gets down. So then you have these shadows. So all we do is we put a little bit of filler in this area, and it'll
Lift
make
it
this
up.
line kind of disappear.
Yeah.
So yes, fillers are not placed typically here, but we place them actually in the cheeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that fixes those.
Yeah, I've had these even like in my 20s. I don't know what it is. Genetics.
Maybe need to laugh less.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's so. And then of course men get Botox and all the typical treatments. And then men do the Shockwave treatment that I showed earlier to prevention of ED. And then of course for weight loss we use the laser treatment. So
for the Shockwave therapy, what's like the frequency? Like how often do you have to come? And
so if somebody has a very severe or significant erectile dysfunction, let's say for a year or 2 years they haven't had an erection, so naturally we'll do about 6 sessions about every other week or so.
Yeah.
But then for men who don't have ED, but they're in their 40s, they feel like, hey, my penis is not as strong as I used to. I get hard, but it's not as good as it used to.
Yeah.
So generally they'll come and do about 1 session every year to sort of maintain,
That's pretty.
preventing it from kind of
That's pretty
declining
effective.
further.
Once a year. I mean,
It is,
It's like
it
a low
is, yeah.
frequency.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. And then in addition to that, we'll generally give you some omega-3 to take, or CoQ10. Those help reduce inflammation. Just like I'm developing blockages in my heart and my brain, same way we have blockages in our penis too, right? So you have less blood supply going there. So naturally omega-3, and they help reduce inflammation. There are some amino acids you can take, like lysine. They help promote blood flow. Anything to do with nitric oxide typically helps. So there are all those things to prevention, right? So, and not smoking, because smoking causes our blood vessels to shrink, which causes ED over time.
Right.
And keeping a good mental health, I think.
Human variability is so different, right? Like some people can bench 700 pounds and some people can't bench 50 pounds.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
What is the highest testosterone you've ever seen naturally, and what is the lowest you've ever seen? How many fold difference?
So lowest I saw was about 200 in a 25, 26-year-old. And he was basically working at the airport and he was fueling jet engines. And he was not wearing a respirator, so all the toxins and all the fumes from the airplanes he was inhaling, and that was basically shutting down all his glands that produce testosterone, right? So that's the lowest I've seen in a young guy, like. And the highest I would say probably like 45, 50-year-old gentleman, and I think he was doing a lot of herbs and a lot of supplements, a lot of ashwagandha, and so probably I think I saw about 900 to 1,000 or so. But other than that, naturally you don't get levels higher than that.
At 50, you would think that you'd see like an 18-year-old having high testosterone.
Well, we do have higher levels when we are much younger, right? But remember, testosterone is pulse, right? So we have much higher levels when we wake up in the morning, right? That's why sometimes men will wake up with erection. So we do have a testosterone surge.
So it changes over the
so
day as well.
So if you get your testosterone done like late in the evening, it is going to be low. But if you get it done in the morning, it tends to be much more higher.
Is there
There's
like
a reason we will wake up in the sleep, and then we're trying to figure out where our partner is and see if they're still up, So if they're still up for some sex, more men tend to have a lot more erections, and they tend to be much stronger erections in the early morning hours.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
true. I think we can all attest.
Yeah.
Guy in his 30s, what vitamins should he be taking? Like, do you recommend a multivitamin? Do you recommend buying individual, supplements? And the second question is, what should every guy be taking? What vitamins do you recommend if you're more focused on testosterone and like sexual health?
Again, like I said, if you have a good healthy diet, generally most of us don't need to take additional vitamins. But that being said, if you're constantly working out, naturally the more activity we have, the more nutrients we consume, right? So if your consumption is high, you're stressed, you're overworking, you're working out a lot, naturally you need a higher dose of nutrients. So generally a good multivitamin every single day is great. I also think that everyone should be eating a lot of greens or grass, so because that helps keep the colon clean, and that grass or the greens feed the bacteria in our gut, and those bacteria are the ones
When you say grass,
I mean like a grass powder, like those greens are available everywhere, right? So we have that in our office too.
Yeah, just like
you could do just like a lot of vegetables. Grass is just because it's a powdered form, it's much easy to take. And these bacteria, and it doesn't get absorbed, so it stays in our colon, and the bacteria break it down and makes serotonin, which is our pleasure hormone.
Yeah.
So if your gut is happy, your brain is happy, right? So a good multivitamin, this, and then again, like if you are working out and you feel like you're not building enough muscles, so probably like zinc will be a good one, or boron to boost your levels. Ashwagandha is a herb that I like a lot. Omega-3 is really good, especially after fish oil, because when we work out, we have a lot of inflammation, we have injuries to our muscle fibers, so that can help repair some of the damage and lower the inflammatory burden because it's an antioxidant, right?
Now here's a question.
Yeah.
Because a multivitamin will contain zinc. So would you recommend a multivitamin and zinc? Isn't it like double zinc?
Well, we don't need a whole lot of zinc. So if your multivitamin already has zinc, then no. But again, like I said, if your focus is on building a lot more muscle mass and boosting your testosterone and your stamina, you may need a higher dose of zinc and boron. Because what these boron does, for example,
because also,
that's okay.
Like the multivitamins rarely contain boron. See, like for me, the reason I'm even asking this is because like I don't like multivitamins. There's something about it that seems like fake. I like just buying the actual vitamin. Yeah. And just combining them all, so I control exact dosage.
I mean,
because like some people are like, oh, you need to have 5,000 IOUs of vitamin D, but you look at the vitamin D, it's like gel. But how is that in a multivitamin? Because the multivitamin has no gel in it. I don't know. It just seems...
Well, naturally, if you're taking a multivitamin, it'll have a fewer quantities of everything, but you're also taking fewer pills.
Yeah.
Right. So now, like I said, with the boron, the way it works, it converts your total testosterone to free testosterone, and the free is the one that exerts its action. So a lot of those things.
Is there a milligram suggestion?
So no, I wouldn't. there's so many different levels
I have-
to
I
it,
have
but I
3
believe it's
milligram.
in about a 50 milligram dose, but I could be wrong. I don't want to. Yeah,
I recently bought boron.
Okay.
It's 3 milligram.
it definitely helps. Boost your zinc also, like about 50 milligram. It definitely helps convert your total to free testosterone.
Zinc is the only vitamin that I notice my life being different when I don't have it.
Okay.
Because when I have zinc, I have morning woods more frequently, and I'm just hornier. But when I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
it just goes away. It's like it's perfectly aligned. Like I know when
Sure.
I have zinc and when I don't.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not a huge pill prescriber. I don't like taking a lot of pills. And
Yeah.
if you don't have a huge needs on your body, then you generally don't need to take a lot of vitamins if you have a good healthy diet.
Yeah.
Right. But if you are drinking, if you're smoking, you're working out
Okay.
all the time, naturally it's a good idea to take all those. Or like, we sometimes will do a lot of IV nutrition too. Sometimes you are not absorbing all those vitamins. We check your levels, they're super low, and you say, well, I'm taking all the zinc, I'm doing this, but your level is low. We can do an injection or we can do an IV drip.
Yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to answer all our questions. I think all of our viewers are asking these type of questions because it impacts everything we do from work to dating to health and fitness to sleep. And if people want to reach out to you, how do they find you?
So thank you, Mike. That's great. So you can reach out by just going to our website, which is healer.com, or you can call us 702-362-2273, or just send us a message on social media, or we have a chat function on our website.
What's your Instagram?
So my Instagram is Raj Singh MD,
What's
or for the
what's your-
office it's Healer, HEALOR.
Uh-huh.
So and then they can just send us a message on Instagram also.
Nice.
Yeah. But main thing is like, to all the guys out there, men have this tendency not to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this, society has expectation for us to be always project that we are strong, but it's okay to ask for help. We all need help once in a while. So nothing wrong with that. Right? So,
Awesome.
but it was great talking to both of you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll be bringing in a bunch of girls for that pussy tightening procedure.
Yes, sure. You do
Someday,
that.
Okay, you'll go, I remember that guy.
Yes, we can do that. Yes.